Hello, sports fans, and welcome to the Weekend Eve. I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice. This is Any Given Sunday on KUAW. Across from me is my brother with another mother, Coach 24, Darwin Penny. How are you doing this evening?
Hey, we're glad to be here. It's another exciting Weekend Eve, and looking forward to another great weekend of sports.
Absolutely. And running the show behind the scenes, Mr. DJ Scatter, George Walker. Mr. Walker, how are you doing this evening?
Hey, I'm grateful and doing just fine.
Awesome. And I'm glad that Coach 24 is here because he has had a busy week and a half running, doing a bunch of scouting, and he is getting ready to do something this weekend. So he was able to come in, and I am greatly appreciated. Would you like to discuss this, or do you want to talk this at the end of the show?
We'll talk about it at the end of the show.
Okay, sounds good. So we've got a lot of football going on, but we want to talk about the American Association of Professional Baseball. And the Kansas City Monarchs are the Niles Wolf Cup champs for the third time in 5 years.
Third time in 5 years, the Monarchs have done a really good job of assembling a roster with guys who are former Major League veterans and guys who have played a high level of baseball in organized affiliated ball, minor league ball. But more than anything else, they've created an atmosphere there that's fan-friendly, that is also something that is conducive to people who, when the Royals are out of town, there's an opportunity for you to go over there and still get a good brand of baseball. Some people who may just live on that part of Kansas City, out by the Legends, it's a great place to go and dine and eat and to watch a baseball game. And so the staff over there does a really first-class job of what is independent league baseball. Most people don't know what independent league baseball, but it's a form of minor league baseball that is just unaffiliated with a major league team. And the American Association is the highest level of independent ball. Most guys that play in the American Association have at least achieved the AA level, which is in itself a challenge just to get to that level to play. And so there's guys who have some skill and the ability to put the ball in play. There's guys who can really pitch. We've seen guys get signed out of the league and get an opportunity to actually make it back to Major League Baseball, and they may be there for one reason or another. Some guy may have just, one pitch they may not have been able to command, or a guy who's had some arm problems or control problems. And so that's what you find in independent league baseball, and guys that are still just reliving and chasing the dream. And so it is a testament to the old school Negro League Kansas City Monarchs. They wear those colors proudly, and we know that when you've ever listened to Bob Kendrick talk about the Monarchs, they played for the love of the game. And anybody who's still playing independent league baseball has to have a love for the game.
Absolutely. And the Monarchs, when they were in the Negro Leagues, were an successful winning baseball team. Now we're getting it back with this team too. So I just want to congratulate them, and I would love to try to get the owner to come on our show sometime and talk about the success and everything else.
Absolutely. We'll put in a call over there. I do know Jay and the gang over there, and so we'll do our best to see if we can't get him to come, and just here's another platform for you to share the Monarchs and the story that they're unfolding over there.
Absolutely. So, and as you can see, if anybody is watching this, you see the jerseys we're wearing. He's wearing his Monarchs jersey. I'm wearing my old 1940 Monarch jersey from the Royals game that was provided. And thank you to you, too, for those. And so I wore my jersey tonight proudly. And speaking of the Royals have been playing well. Now, saying that, they've lost 102 games. They are arguably going to be the worst team in franchise history. But it always seems like at this time of the year that they are always playing a lot better ball, which is good that they are doing that. I wish they would have done it a little bit sooner. But saying that, they have won their last 3 series in a row, including a sweep over one of their rivals, the Guardians.
Absolutely. The second half of the season, you see an improved level of play. We were at a 29% win percentage earlier in the year. We're up to 33%, and it is. I don't like to say one person, but obviously we've seen the emergence of Bobby Witt Jr. over the second half of the season. At any time this year, we trotted out 6 guys who had 2 years of major league experience or less. That's a very, very young team. And some of these guys are really cutting their teeth, not only in professional baseball, but they're having to do it at the major league level. And so you can see some adjustments that have been made. Some of these guys are starting to feel, but Bobby has been a true catalyst the second half. Miguel Garcia has been outstanding, and so what we have is the makings of a really good left side of our infield for the next couple of years. Hopefully we can get Vinny Pascantino back, get him going at first base or at DH. Nick Prado looks like he's poised and ready to finally make that jump from AAA to the major leagues. We get settled in at center fielder. We're starting to see Drew Waters emerge. He was hurt earlier in the season. We got him in a trade with the Braves, and so we're glad to see him over. MJ Melendez looks like he's going to be a full-time guy. And we know what we have in Salvi. And then, to our surprise this year, Fermin played really well and gave Salvi a chance to rest and play a little bit more first or DH. And so we had a lot of injuries. We're still trying to get Brady Singer going on, but Cole Reagans has been an outstanding find in a trade that we did with the Texas Rangers when we were able to trade Aroldis Chapman over there. And so there's some pieces that have been put together, and let's see if we can build off of this, have a great offseason. We still got pieces that need to be, but we need to get this thing turned around and get back in contention, and so our fans can see the Royals back in postseason again.
Right, absolutely. And I feel that in the offseason that John Sherman is going to have to spend some money. I know he is the Royals are 23rd in salaries. I believe it's like $95 million. You need to start getting some players in. If you want the fans to invest in the team, the owner has to do it himself too. So let's just see what goes on. Let's hope that the rest of the season that they will play well and look forward to an successful off season. So now we're going to go to football. The Chiefs last week, they struggled offensively, but the two components that was not in the first week was there within Chris Jones and Travis Kelce, and they played better to get the win. But saying that, they definitely need a lot of work on the offense.
Well, as we've said since we started the show, we know that the Chiefs are going to get everybody's A game. They're going to bring their A game to them. I think most teams are still trying to find their stride offensively early in the season because they don't play the starters in preseason anymore. Where is that rhythm and timing going to come from? Rhythm and timing is only something that you can get in game. And you can go out there and you can do all the practice plan you want, but until you actually get in the game and people, have their hearts racing and you're trying to get, timing with receivers and things like that and trying to get continuity with the offense, the offensive line. You got backs that are learning how to pick up blitzes, things like that. And so there's a challenge, right? You've got a whole new group of receivers that are trying to find themselves. And then if you subtract from that the best receiver in Travis Kelce, then you could see the offense start to sputter. I think it is still going to be important that the Chiefs at some point in time establish a run game. We know that the best quarterback in the NFL resides here in Kansas City. But to keep some of these defenses honest and the ability to work off of play action helps any quarterback, even the great Mahomes, right? And so I think there's an opportunity for them to continue to grow, but it's early in the season. A win is a win. We talked about it last year, you and I. people in Kansas City have become so enamored with what they can do offensively, they still forget that people going to come out and play good defense against the Chiefs.
Right.
And a win is a win, whether you win by 20 or whether you win by 1. It's a win. Right? Just like a loss is a loss when you lost by 1.
Yep.
And so I think the Chiefs are fine. When you look at the rest of that division, everybody in that division is struggling. The Broncos are 0-2, the Chargers are 0-2, and you're gonna have a coach. You're gonna have a coach on a hot seat and a quarterback on a hot seat in those respective places. And then the Raiders, they're 1-1, but they've scored half as many points as they've allowed.
Right.
So figure that out. So at the end of the day, Chiefs fans, don't panic. The best thing has been the Chiefs defense when they were worried about it. Now you got Jones back in the fold, and they're showing that, you're giving up 15 points a game. There ain't but a handful. There's 2 teams really that's giving up fewer points than the Chiefs defense.
Right, absolutely. San Francisco is tied with them, but the number 1 team is the Dallas Cowboys, and they have been just totally just killing everybody from the defensive side. Saying that, Dallas took a huge loss today with Trayvon Diggs tearing his ACL in a practice, in a non-physical drill. It's one of those skill drills that you do, that you practice every day, but he is probably gone for the year. How does that affect Dallas? And then I've got another question to ask you afterwards.
It affects them huge because his ability to turn the ball over, his ability to get interceptions, his ability to cover. We were looking at arguably the best tandem cornerbacks in the league with he and Stephon and Gilmore, who's a former NFL Defensive Player of the Year. And so what it allowed for you to do is to be aggressive with your line calls and blitzes and how they attack the quarterback, because they knew on the outside we can handle these guys, and it allowed your safeties now to do some things. It allows them to play in the box if you need to commit another guy to the run. He brought so much. He also was a guy that was really good, because most people may or may not know that he went to Alabama as a receiver, and they moved him over to defense just because you just couldn't keep a talent like that on the bench, and they were so deep at receiver. But when he intercepts the ball, he's a threat to score. And so it has to be an emotional letdown in that locker room to be without one of your best players, and especially in a non-game situation.
Absolutely. So the rush has been tremendous. Parsons, Player of the Week in the NFC, of course, for annihilating the Jets, minus Aaron Rodgers. Yes, I know. But they've been killing it. How does it affect the pass rush?
Well, for me, it puts a little bit more pressure on the pass rush. When you have a good pass rush, your guys don't have to hold receivers as long. And so for years, we complained in Dallas that our corners were no good. And I kept telling people, it's like, our secondary is bad. I'm like, we got no rush. If you don't have a rush, I don't care how good your secondary is.
Exactly.
Right? So you have to put pressure on the quarterback. They're getting to the quarterback right now in an average of just under 3 seconds. I think I could still hold somebody for 3 seconds.
Yeah,
two of those seconds, I'm going to grab their jersey, right? And so then I'm going to swat the ball. And so it's huge when you can do that. Now, they have some depth at the position. Somebody's going to have to step up. Deron Bland in particular. He played really well last year as a rookie. I would expect them to throw him in the mix to be the starter in place of Diggs. He has been their nickel defensive back corner, if you will, playing the guys in the slot. He's a physical guy, and he can get after guys. You also have Jordan Lewis, who has a lot of experience being able to play out there. And so they have some depth.
Right.
So, but those guys are not all pro.
Right. They're not Diggs.
They're not Diggs, right?
But the next guy has to step up and
Right.
perform.
Absolutely. And so if you're going to be a good team, you have to overcome adversity. And that's what I heard one of the casters say today. Well, we still really don't know who Dallas is because they haven't had any adversity.
Right.
As soon as he says that, it wasn't 20 minutes later, we're reading about Diggs, and maybe gone for the season. Now we have it confirmed that he is gone for the season. And that's what you have to do. But I do think there's enough depth. They're not going to have to run out and get a guy, right? If the Rams can play without Jalen Ramsey, the Cowboys are going to have to play without Trayvon Diggs.
Right, absolutely. So now with Diggs getting injured, Travis Kelce getting injured, and on non-touching plays, plays where you're not touching the players or anything else. This has been a going-on conclusion for the last several years because it's not like the old Marty Schottenheimer 3-hour practices where you're hitting everybody and everything else. You've got them limited. You've got limited practices. How much of an effect does that have due to these players getting injured in non-contact drills?
A lot of these guys are so physical, right? They're so muscular. Mm-hmm. And they're moving at a high rate of speed. And when you start to make sudden movements, i.e. cutting, stopping, starting, that's generally where those ACLs happen, change of directions. Most times we don't know, we do the MRI after something happens. I don't know that they're always doing those things prior to see where his ligaments were prior to the season starting, right? We do the physical. We make sure they're healthy. But there's not a whole lot you can do. What we see today in the game, more guys miss more games now usually for soft tissue injury. But the ACL has become the biggest injury. Now, we've gotten better at fixing it. Mm-hmm. Guys come back and they're fine after having that injury, whereas years ago you had an ACL, man, you were just about done. Right? Or you were going to have to change positions. You're going to have to do something when you tore your knee up. But these guys now, with the type of resources that they have in the technology that we have, that doctors have understood how to go in there and correct that injury and get guys back up through the rehab process. I still am a big proponent of grass. Mm-hmm. I wondered did the injury happen on the grass field or the turf field?
Right. Because I imagine they have
all
practice.
of it.
Yeah,
right.
they have many practices.
If you go to the Star in Frisco where they work out on a daily basis, they've got 2 grass fields and 1 turf field outside and then a turf field inside. Right. And years ago, my high school trainer said the more turf that we add into this game, the more knee injuries. I can remember him telling our high school coach, if you bring in turf, get you another trainer. He says not only the injuries are we're going to deal with as far as the knee injuries, the turf toe, and a lot of guys that were getting burned, and that was the old AstroTurf.
Right.
Okay, not what they have today. Everybody still thinks that, well, we got better turf today. Yeah, it's better, but at the end of the day, what's under turf? Concrete.
Right.
Only difference is now they don't have a slab. They have crushed concrete under it versus
right,
that.
and it's a little more down than it was years ago. Then they only had like a quarter of an inch.
Right, and now they've also added the field turf where it has the strands that are pseudo grass, if you will.
Right.
And so, but at the end of the day, man, these guys are so muscular, and they're running with and cutting with such force.
Right.
And the drills that they do are all about speed and change of direction. At some point in time, those limbs have to give.
Yeah.
Okay. Our bodies weren't created to play football.
No.
Right. We play it, but that's wasn't what it was created. It's the
Well,
same thing with
baseball.
arms and baseball.
Right.
Right. There's only so many ticks in that shoulder and that elbow.
Yeah, they said that to try to throw a pitch like Cole Reagan's, is like a slingshot.
Yeah.
It's not good for you, but you still keep doing it. And speaking of that, you've got Nick Chubbs, who tore his knee on a hit that a lot of people are trying to say that Micah Fitzpatrick cheap shot him. He's a dirty player. Look, I'm telling you what, the only time that you ever going to attain speed, and I'm either talking about us or even a regular person on the street, is if your child is running out in the middle of the street and a car is coming. You may develop that speed to go get your child to keep from getting hurt. But these rules are to always protect the offensive player. They don't protect the defensive player because, say, I'm a running back and you come at me, I can grab you by your face mask and pull, and hold you down to keep you from tackling me. But if you pull my face mask, they're going to call a penalty on you every single time. So, unfortunately, that was a fast play. It was a gruesome play. And unfortunately, Nick Chubbs is out for the year also.
Yeah, injuries are part of the game. We hate to see it happen, but they are part of the game. And now with the amount of money that the players are making, that's a huge loss when you're paying guys, $15+ million a year, and now you don't have them available to go out and try to be successful as a team.
Right, and that injury also hurts the running backs' causes to try to get more money.
Absolutely.
Because you're saying, hey, look what happened. Why do we want to pay a lot of money and then watch that?
For the guys that play the most contact, they have the most risk, is the NFL running back. And that it's two sides to the story. The running backs are saying, exactly, that's the reason why we should get paid, because we're taking a bigger risk than everybody else.
Right.
All the rules are in to protect the quarterback and the receivers. There's no rules to protect the running back.
Nope.
Okay. But by the same token, the owners are saying that's a high risk for me to give you all that money and you might not be out there.
Right. So, it's a double-edged sword. And, that just makes it rough because I enjoy watching a football game. And yes, it is. They want to say it's violent. It's just hard-hitting. Violence to me is gangs going to shoot you and kill you. Those are violence. Yes, the sport is rough. Yes, you can get hurt, but it's been going on for 104 years now. So it's not like that it just changed all of a sudden. It's just the guys are now bigger and stronger. You used to have a offensive lineman in the 40s and 50s that weighed 170, 180 pounds. Now they're 280, 290, 300, and they are bigger, stronger, and they can run just as fast as they can run as a running back or a quarterback. So I enjoy it, but I'm afraid with how the society is today that it's going to end up going to two-hand touch or flag football.
I don't think it'll get that far, but they're going to continue to implement safety rules, new rules, and we'll figure it out. I think one of the things may be, like, you can't hit the quarterback low. They may decide that you can't hit the running back low.
Right.
Right, and everything now becomes an upper body game, right? If you take tackling out of it, then it's no longer football. It's something else.
Exactly. Well, and I saw a replay from a couple of years ago when Micah Fitzpatrick tried to tackle Nick Chubb up high, and he barely got a hand on him because Nick Chubb just ran right by him. He's a 230-pound man, and even when I was 230 pounds, I was not all muscle. 230 pounds of muscle will just roll you over. So, you have to try to get them low because you stop their legs, you stop them from, running.
The rule was always how you chop a tree down, right?
Right,
you chop it down from the bottom.
Right.
And everything. And so it is, but, like I said, you look at a lot of the rules, the flintless receiver, you can't come in low on the quarterback. You can't block behind a play anymore, the old crackback block.
Right.
Things like that to just, try to protect the players. Obviously, everybody's talking about CTE, things like that. But at the end of the day, the soft tissue injuries and the joints are what takes a ton of trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's going to always be a physical sport, right? Maybe violent is not the word, but it's going to be a physical sport, right? And it's what we love, right?
Exactly.
It's a true test of manhood, probably other than boxing, it's as physical as it gets,
Mm-hmm.
to go in and do that. So the guys that go out and play rugby, my hat goes off to them because they didn't even got no pads on.
Well,
These
but
guys are
I
crazy.
just heard that in rugby you can't hit them low because they don't have pads, they don't have helmets, so you can't just. I mean, if you want to stick your head in there, you're risking it. But they seem to tackle in the proper way, and I know that when I was younger and I was taught how to tackle, I was using my shoulder. I never used my head. They always said use your shoulder and tackle them at their waist. So, and I understand, the parts that if you don't get their legs, they'll still keep running. But at the same time, if you tackle properly, and I know that going down to college, high school, little league, they are learning that, and that's awesome.
Are they? I'm telling you right now, I bet I could take you out to Pee Wee League football, junior high football, and show you guys that are not getting how to properly tackle, right? We see evidence of it in the NFL. The guys don't know. The guys go for the big hit, but they don't know how to tackle, right?
Right.
As a former high school football coach, one thing that we stressed was learning how to properly tackle, especially
Exactly.
from our junior high up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we gave our kids 3 options, right? Number 1, see what you hit.
Right.
Your face got to be up. You don't duck your head.
Right.
Your face has got to be up. Okay. Number 2, we always talk to them about getting their head across the ball or across the runner's body, or what we call bite the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Get your head across them. That now has a chance to stop their forward progress. Okay. If you can't, the next thing we do is wrap the waist, wrap and roll. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Get your arms around the waist, wrap and roll. Last ditch effort, if you can't get there, sweep the feet.
Right.
Right? We're going to sweep that guy's feet. But you always see what you hit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? You got to see what you
Absolutely.
hit. And we always used to tell our guys, take your arms and fire your arms up through the back of their shoulder pads, right? Okay? I got him now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so I want to be able to see that. And then we're going to roll our hips up through the tackle. That's force on force. But I see these young kids now ducking their heads, and they got them doing tackle drills that are too far apart instead of starting them out closer so they can learn proper mechanics. We used to make our guys literally step and walk through it of how to properly tackle.
Right.
And so, but you see guys today in the NFL, it's like, man, that's a business decision, right? I'm going to tackle when I have to.
Right. And because you want to be on ESPN, you want to be in the
I
top
want the
10.
big, I want the big lick.
And I just wanted to get the guy down.
Absolutely.
And I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to hurt him, but I wanted to hit him hard enough to, let him know that I was there, but not hurt him. But, I guess I look at TV and I see how the NFL is getting all these younger kids and showing them exactly how it's done. And you're showing me another story, and
Well,
that's not a good story.
Not everybody is ascribing to NFL 360. Not everybody is going to be properly trained, and that goes into leagues. And because most people today aren't playing leagues, it's a formed league, and there's no real true governance to making sure that coaches are properly trained before they get out here and start coaching kids at a younger age. Me personally, I don't think kids should tackle until they're at least 11 or 12 years old. You need to play flag football, allow their bones to continue to mature before we get them out there and start hitting, right? It's not hard to learn how to tackle.
No, it's not. But I also know that there are coaches who want to step aside the rules and try to get an advantage, as you would say.
Absolutely. Everybody, especially in underserved neighborhoods, are looking for the ticket out and NFL riches and glory and things like that. I'm looking at YouTube all the time, and I see 6, 7-year-olds out there playing tackle football. They can hardly keep their head up because of most of your injuries, and I don't really want to get into a whole long dialogue about it. When we talk about improper mouth wear, we talk about improper helmet fitting, we talk about improper pad wear. That's where young kids get hurt, okay? And so, but in the NFL, we've got force versus force, and there's a chance. But at the end of the day, just like we dealing with today, and I had this conversation with many a mom that was afraid to let their young boys play football. I said, most knee injuries are non-contact, okay? Mm-hmm. That same injury that happened to Diggs today happens in women's soccer all the time.
Yep.
Okay? Happens all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Because of change of direction. And you're putting that much force on a ligament and a joint area. So it happens. Okay? I've seen it. Okay? I've had 2 or 3 kids over the years go down on non-contact drills, ACL. When it happens, I knew it immediately.
Right.
Nobody hit him.
Nope.
Just changed direction.
Yep.
Okay, and the joint wasn't supported enough. As somebody who's had an ACL injury, guys got to go out there. Most ACL injuries also happen because there's a deficiency in either the hamstring, the quad, or the calf. That's the stabilizer of that joint, and you need to be strong in those 3 areas if we want to do a good job of protecting that knee.
So let me ask you this, and I know we're going past halftime, and we will take a break shortly. So how do we strengthen our legs without looking like Arnold Schwarzenegger, having huge thighs and huge calves? Because I think having those actually puts more pressure on those knees. How do you strengthen those?
It's about being balanced. I can't be deficient on one side of that area, right? So if I've got good quads and I got good hamstrings, but I got weak calves, I've got a joint now that is not stabilized. What we want to be is balance. It's not about size, but it is about strength and balance. And so we got to make sure that we're not deficient one side or the other, that one side is superiorly developed than the other side. Most girls have that injury because they're usually really, really quad dominant, and they're usually neglect their hamstring. So what we've got to do is make sure that we are strengthening all 3 of those muscles to stabilize that joint and be balanced.
And that includes phenomenal coaching.
Absolutely.
And we are at halftime on Any Given Sunday. Coach 24, awesome voice, and DJ Scatter. We're going to take a quick break, and then when we get back, we will start talking about the NFL and where the Chiefs are at right now and what they need to do.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to let you know, too, that now you're listening to KUAW Radio or KUAW broadcast, but you're also able to hear us right now on KOJH FM 100.5. So KUAW is now partnering with KOJH in the Jazz District of Kansas City, 18th and Vine. So tune in on the radio or listen to us on the internet. KUAW Radio on KOJH. And now we're going back to KUAW Radio. And want to let you know that you can hear us now on the FM side. This is our first broadcast live coming out of the Mutual Musicians Foundation on 18th and Vine. We're broadcasting with our partner on KOJH. So listen to us on the FM side, KOJH 100.5. Now back to Any Given Sunday.
All right, we are back for the second half of Any Given Sunday. I am the awesome voice, Brian Kress, Coach 24, Darwin Penny, and DJ Scatter, George Walker. We had a great first half, had some great information and everything else. So now we're going to talk real quick. I want to talk about the top 10 and the bottom 10 of the NFL right now. And I was writing this down. And so I put some teams in the bottom 10 that I was like, okay, yeah, they don't play as well now anymore or anything like that. So I have to do that for the top 10. So my top 10 is I had Dallas at number 3 because I had Philadelphia and San Francisco ahead of them. I have Dallas 1. I have San Francisco 2. Philadelphia 3. Miami 4. Baltimore 5, Kansas City 6, Seattle 7th, Buffalo 8th, Jacksonville 9th, and Tampa Bay at 10. And I really had a hard decision because I had either Tampa Bay, Washington, or there was another team that was 2-0 that I was like, ugh.
What about the Saints?
Yeah, the Saints. That was what? That was the other one. So I think the Saints have a great defense right now, but also at the same time, look who they have played.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, but defensively, they haven't given up 20 points, more than 20 points in a game for 10 games going back to last year. They're doing some good things defensively, and I think that keeps them in a game. For me, they're going to have better quarterback play this year with David Carr, and they'll still do a few little gadgets with Taysom Hill and everything like that. But I think Carr is going to settle them down. They got Michael Thomas back, and he looks healthy and he looks good. They'll get Kamara back. All of a sudden, the Saints look like a formidable in a weak division.
Exactly.
Right? And so I don't think there are a top 5, but I could see them as sliding in at number 10.
Gotcha. So, and like I said, I had Dallas at number 3. I moved them to number 1. I was doing it based on last year and not moving them. But Dallas right now is the best team. If they get their offensive going, that they will make the defense even better because then the defense doesn't have to play a lot longer.
This has been a conversation all over the last couple of weeks. How many points would be sufficient to say your offense is going?
Averaging 25 to 30 points a game.
Okay. How many did they score last week?
They scored 20.
Okay.
No. No. What was it? I've got my numbers right.
Defense didn't score any points last week.
No, defense did. The defense didn't score any points.
Right.
But
the first week they did. The defense
right.
scored.
Right. They scored 40 in the first game, and then they scored 18 in the first half and 12 in the second half.
Right.
So, but they were all, I believe they were all field goals.
They had 2 touchdown drives. They took the opening kickoff and drove, and they took the opening kickoff of the second half, right, and drove those down there and scored 1 other touchdown, right? And so they did have some field goals. They left some points on the table.
Right.
Okay? But, again, if they scored 30 points, that's all I'm asking people when they say, well, the offense is not – how many points is that? The defense scored and special teams scored the first week.
Right.
So they scored 14 of the 40.
Mm-hmm.
So then that means they scored how many?
My
26.
Number, 26,
right?
Okay.
So 26 points a game or 30 points a game. How much does the offense have to do?
Exactly.
That's my question to the people saying the offense is not doing enough. So if they do more, then how many points are they going to score?
A lot more. 40 or 50.
Right. And so I'm like, okay, the defense is getting the shine right now.
Right.
Dak had to go out there and lit it up and had a 400-yard game. He hadn't had to.
Right.
Pollard hadn't had 150 yards rushing. Hadn't had to. What they've been really good, the defense has put them in great position because they've turned the ball over.
Right.
And that's why I say they did leave some points out there, but they still scored 30 points.
Right.
And people are saying that ain't enough. Against what most people went into this season saying the Jets defense is pretty good and all they need is a quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, and they go into the Super Bowl.
Right. Exactly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
The Giants were a playoff team last year.
Exactly.
Right? They won a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
They beat the Vikings.
Yeah, he did.
And they made them look bad. Okay, it's not that you beat the 49ers or the Chiefs or something. No, you didn't beat them.
Right.
But what should you do if you say these teams are subpar, what should you do to them?
Put them away.
They didn't squeak by them.
Nope.
And they've given up 10 points defensively.
Yep.
And really one of them came on one big fluke play.
Right.
Well, I ain't going to call it a fluke because that guy's a good receiver.
Right.
He's a really great receiver.
Right. He made a great
He made a
move,
great play.
Went up
right.
the middle.
So they don't make that play. They hold the Jets to 3 points.
Exactly.
So, again, the defense is being dominant.
Right.
But people say, well, the offense got to get going. How many points do they got to score? Do they got to score 40 points to be considered going?
Right.
So
that's true.
That's all I'm saying is think about that statement, and they've scored 26 and 30 points offensively. And like I said, if they ain't going, man, I'm getting excited.
Right. I totally agree with you. So here's the other thing. I'm going to give you two sets of stats.
Okay.
And then you tell me which team you would think would be 0-2.
Okay.
One team has scored 37 points. They have turned the ball over 4 times. And the other team has scored 58 points, have not turned the ball over. And which team would you say, just by those two stats, are the better team?
You would say that the team that scored 58 points and hadn't turned the ball over would be the better team.
Right, exactly.
Okay.
But that is the Los Angeles Chargers.
Right.
They have not turned the ball over at all this year.
Mm-hmm.
They have scored 58 points. They have scored enough points to win games.
But they've given up.
Right, right. They gave up too many points.
Right.
You know, well, they gave up 3 points more in the first game and 2 points more in the first game and 3 points in the second game. And the Chiefs, if ands and buts were candy and nuts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. But if Kansas City would not add the pick 6, they would have only given up 2 touchdowns in the first game. They go into Jacksonville, which a lot of people thought that Jacksonville was going to take business to them, and they only gave up 9 points. And in fact, they went into the red zone 4 times and gave up, I think it was 2 field goals because one was outside the 20-yard line.
No, the Chiefs are much improved defensively, and I believe that as they've gotten better over the last 3 or 4 years. But that's what we were saying, right? They needed to get better so that the offense doesn't have to do it week after week after week after week.
Right.
Right. And they gave themselves a chance week 1. Okay. The question about defense, sometimes people got to understand it's when are you good on defense?
Right.
If you're good in the red zone, kind of a bend, don't break, that's fine. Nobody cares about yardage.
Right.
Right? Yardage don't win games.
No.
Okay, points win games. So are you a good red zone defense, right?
Exactly.
And then can you turn teams over, right?
Right.
We saw that the first Sunday night game with the Dallas and the Giants. The Giants took the opening kickoff and Daniel Jones got loose, and next thing you know, they're kicking a field goal, and defense clamps down, boom, they block a kick, and there was never a game after that.
Right.
So it's if you're good when you have to be, if you can make teams kick field goals versus score touchdowns, and they did that. Chiefs did that last week versus Jacksonville, and they kept They kept that offense, right?
Right.
Trevor Lawrence, they kept him at bay.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas in the first game, the defense played very well, but at the end of the game, they could not stop the running game. They scored that late touchdown and for the 1-point victory. And then when they needed to stop and hopefully try to get Mahomes to get the ball back, because you got Mahomes and you got the ball. It doesn't matter if it's 13 seconds or 13 minutes. Mm-hmm. You always feel that he can score. But they couldn't do that, and so it just makes those differences. So, but saying that, we're going to go into our predictions for the week.
Okay.
And we both tied. We were 10-6. My afternoon guys just totally let me down. I had Denver, and for some reason I kept thinking I was going to pick Washington, and I never did. But I picked the Rams, and I picked Arizona. And for one half, I was a genius with that. You know, I mean, the Giants have only scored in virtually 2 quarters out of 8 quarters. They've scored 31 points. And that was because Arizona was a bad team, and they gave up all those points. So I did pick Arizona. I did pick the Rams, and Rams were good. And then they had the ball, the Tony ball that slipped out of the hand. San Francisco intercepted, and then they were done. So, but you had Cleveland, and if it wasn't for Pittsburgh scoring 2 defensive touchdowns, you would have been right on that too. So, but we went 10-6 last week, or the first week. You went 12-4, which was better than any of us. I was 10-6. Rich Eisen 10-6. Steve Mariucci 9-7, Kurt Warner 8-8. Gerald McCoy is a new member on the team. He was 11-5, and he was tied with Michael Irvin, who was also 11-5. So you're rolling right now. They don't give, for some reason, they don't give all their predictions. So I have to wait until the next the Sunday issue so I can see how they do. But we went 10-6. Rich has 3 losses so far. Mooch has 3 losses. Kirk has 2 losses, McCoy 2 losses, and Michael Irvin has only 1 loss. And I did put him down that he picked Cincinnati, but he actually picked Baltimore. Me and him were the only 2 that picked Baltimore. Okay. So saying that, we've got Thursday night football tonight, which will be in roughly about 40 minutes. Giants versus San Francisco. Now, they've had a history, but Giants have been struggling, and San Francisco is motoring, even though Brandon Ayuk is not going to play. You don't have Saquon Barkley. You don't have Lyman Brennan, and the left tackle, Thomas, for the Giants, which means Bosa may have a field day with him.
All right. Well, the Giants could have all of those guys, Saquon, and bring LT back and still not beat the 49ers.
So I'm guessing you're picking the 49ers?
I'm going to pick the 49ers. They are a good football team. They are a well-coached football team.
Absolutely.
Because they're so good on defense, Brock Purdy doesn't have to be elite. All he has to do is take care of the ball.
Yep.
They've got great weapons. McCaffrey was a great pickup as long as he stays healthy.
Yes.
That gives that running game a guy who can bump his head on the goalposts with no problem. Debo is Debo.
Yep.
Kittle is really good as a tight end.
Yep.
And so and they're really good defensively, right? That is a well-balanced football team, and they have been for the last 3 or 4 years.
Right.
And so there's nothing you can take away from them. I just expect them to be – we're going to see week 5. That's what I'm waiting on.
Yep.
Week 5, Cowboys and the Niners, right?
Yep, absolutely.
We're waiting on
that. So we're going to do the week. We're going to kind of do this quick because I still want to get your segment in, the most important segment. We've got Colts at Ravens.
I'll take the Ravens at home.
Excuse me. Okay, we have the Titans and Cleveland Browns.
Very disappointed in the way Deshaun Watson is playing right now. The line's not very good. So I'm going to go with Mike Vrabel and the Titans.
And right now, he is throwing 27% of his passes either underthrowing or overthrowing, which leads the NFL right now. So I totally agree with you. I'm going to take the Titans, especially after last week. Nobody really thought the Titans would beat the Chargers. So, and then you've got the Atlanta Falcons, surprisingly 2-0 versus the Detroit Lions.
Wow. Yeah, that's going to be an interesting game. I think Detroit is the better team, top to bottom, but Atlanta got just what they needed for a young quarterback in Bijan Robinson. However, I'm going to take the Lions at home.
And I totally agree with you for this point. Last week was just a complete disappointment. I mean, they uncovered Barry Sanders' statue. They just came off beating the defending champs. I mean, everything was looking good for them, and then they just kind of just fell apart. I think Dan Campbell is a good enough coach where he is not going to allow Atlanta Falcons to do this again. I'm taking the Lions also. New Orleans at Green Bay.
This is going to be a really good game. If it was December, I'd easily take the Packers, cold Lambeau, with an outdoors team. I'm going to go with the Packers to give the Saints their first loss of the season.
And I am going to pick the Packers, and one reason only: Aaron Jones will be back.
Yeah.
I believe that the Packers would be 2-0 had he had played Sunday. Texans and Jaguars.
I'll take the Jaguars.
And I will take the Jaguars too. Another tough game: Broncos at Dolphins.
What's tough about that game? I'll take the Dolphins.
The Broncos defense is
Broncos
horrible.
had 2 games at home that they should have done something with, and now you got to go on the road
and play the arguably the best offense in the NFL.
Yep.
Chargers and Minnesota. Now both teams are 0-2. There has only been 6 teams since 1980 that has gone from 0-3 to the playoffs. The last one is the 2018 Houston Texans. And neither one of them cannot afford to lose this game.
Wow, this is a tough game to call because both teams could be 2-0.
Mm-hmm.
All right. The Vikings played well against the Eagles, but they turned the ball over, and that got them in trouble. Chargers haven't turned the ball over, but just haven't come up with big stops. The other thing is, for me, Eckler's hurt, and I'm going to go with the Vikings at home.
And they picked up Cam Akers.
Yes.
Saying that, I think I'm going to take the Chargers, and the reason why is I think the defense is angry for allowing the Chargers to score so many points and still give up so many. I think that they can shut down Minnesota. So I'll have the Chargers. New England at the Jets.
Interesting. I think the Jets' defense is a little bit better than the Patriots, but I'm going to go with the Patriots to get their first win. Mac Jones is playing better. Okay, and he's playing better, and so I'm gonna give him. It'll be a close game, but I'm gonna give Mac Jones the edge.
Well, I'm going to pick the Jets because I am losing faith in New England, and I'm actually losing faith in Bill Belichick. I mean, he was supposed, he was the type of guy that bend to don't break type defenses. When you got down in the red zone, you shut him down, and his defense hasn't been doing that. And I think the Jets will play just well enough to beat them. Buffalo at the Commanders.
This should be good, but I'm going to go with the Bills. We're going to find out what Washington really is. I don't think they're a 2-0 team, but they're going to either prove me right or prove me wrong this week. I just think Buffalo's a better team.
Well, I think this is the best defense the Commanders have played. So this is Eric Bieniemy's time to see how he does as the offensive coordinator. I picked the Bills too. Carolina Panthers at Seattle.
bless the Panthers' heart. It's going to be a long season for them. It's going to be a long season for Bryce Young. They should have went, in my opinion, not because of his talent. I just would have went with a bigger quarterback because that little man is going to take a big licking back there.
Well, saying that, Andy Dalton is starting Sunday.
Yeah, I would too, man. Don't get that kid beat. Don't get that kid beat up, man. I'll still take the Seahawks.
I got the Seahawks too. Cowboys at Cardinals.
You know who I'm going with. I'm riding with the star.
Yep. Even without Diggs, they are still 10 times better than the Cardinals.
It really would be any given Sunday if the Cardinals beat them.
Absolutely. Bears at the Chiefs.
I'll go with the Chiefs.
I'm going to go with the Chiefs too. This should be a game that they should take care of business. Maybe they don't beat them by 20 or 30 points, but they should take care of business. Mm-hmm. Pittsburgh Steelers at the Las Vegas Raiders.
Wow. This is a tougher game than one would think. Mm-hmm. The Steelers are not the Steelers. I don't care what anybody says. They were lucky to be 1-1. They got thoroughly handled by the 49ers week 1. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go with the Raiders.
You know what? I am going to go with the Raiders too. Their defense used to be their stalwart, and Tomlin could always rely on them. And their defense hasn't done nothing.
They're not playing good team defense. They got one guy. Mm-hmm. T.J. Watt is still T.J. Watt, but they're not playing good team defense. They've got some issues on the back end and the secondary.
Yep.
And I don't know. Jimmy G just might carve them up.
There you go. Philadelphia. Okay, this is Monday night. We've got a doubleheader: Philadelphia Eagles and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at Tampa Bay.
Yeah, the Eagles are the Eagles, and I'm gonna just go with them over Tampa.
I do not have enough faith in Mayfield to
Shaker Baker, baby.
Yeah, exactly. I've got the Eagles too. Rams at the Bengals.
Wow. It's hard for me to think that the Bengals are going to go 0-3. But they've got some issues.
Mm-hmm. Including their highest paid player.
Yeah, they got issues, man. Golly, this is a tough one for me. To think that the Rams are going to go on the road and beat those guys. I'm gonna pick the Rams.
You got the Rams?
I'm going to pick the Rams.
I'm going to stick with the Bengals. I think they will play just well enough to beat the Rams, but it won't be much. So, anyway, we are done with our show. You have some news we're going to tell you, but the most important segment is Penny for your thoughts.
All right, we want to just have a little bit of a shout out today. We talked about them earlier, the Kansas City Monarchs. But we also want to remember the original Monarchs of Negro League Baseball, and in particular the 1942 Monarchs, which might have been the best Monarchs team of all time, led by Satchel Paige and Hilton Smith. But what they were doing was they were playing such a great style of baseball. It was the precursor to get Jackie Robinson there in the 1945 season, which would then allow him to integrate baseball in 1947. And so the Kansas City Monarchs, in winning the American Association, are bringing back to memory the great Negro League players of Satchel Paige, Hilton Smith, Buck O'Neil, and so many others that brought Kansas City its first championship in any sport, the Kansas City Monarchs. Right now, we've got one champion in our city.
Yep.
Okay.
And
we're going to have a second one, right? We're going to have a second one probably later in the year, maybe with the Chiefs.
Yep.
But for the calendar year 2023, our salute and our penny for your thought goes out to the Monarchs for playing Negro League style baseball.
Yes, absolutely. And an extra shout out to Bob Kendrick for helping everybody notice who the Monarchs were and the Negro Leagues baseball.
Absolutely.
So we are getting ready to go, and you've got somewhere special to go this weekend.
Yeah, we're going to take I want to send a special shout out to my wife, Maria, who's been my battery mate. For those who may not know what a battery mate is, back in the old days, that's what they used to call the pitcher and the catcher. I've been pitching them. She's been catching them for almost 34 years. It'll be 34 years on Saturday. And so we're going to go to the Windy City to celebrate our anniversary. Looking forward to it. And if y'all look in the bleachers on Sunday, if you got WGN, the Cubs game, you might see me in the cheap seats out there.
Oh, that'll be awesome. Awesome. So congratulations, because you're a phenomenal man and a stalwart brother. And I am so blessed to have you in my life. And Maria is just awesome. I love her to death. So she is so great. So with that, with Coach 24, Darwin Penny, my brother with another mother, DJ Scatter, George Walker, I am Brian Kress, the awesome voice. Be awesome, not angry, and you guys have yourself a superior sports weekend. Oh, bless you.